All right, so what we have here is a little bit, it's an independent film, obviously, if it debuted at Sundance, and it's written, directed, and stars a woman named Eva Victor. She plays a character named Agnes. She and her college friends meet up for a weekend, in part to celebrate Agnes getting a job as a professor at the school that they all went to. But as we come to find out, Agnes is still trying to cope with and heal from a sexual assault by one of her professors a few years before.
Yeah. It starts and then it goes back in time.
Yeah.
You have different years, and so you see her evolve as a person, as a character. And I thought this script was so good and authentic, kind of the opposite of what I was saying about Oh Hi. To me, I totally just bought these characters, and it was like a very good job of balancing tone between the more emotional and the dry wit that she has.
Yes.
And it's one of my favorites of the year.
Yes, you mentioned that when we were doing the best of the first half of 2025. This was in your top 5, and I finally got to see it this last week. And so as I watched it, this was an interesting watch for me because, obviously I would experience some of the things in it differently than you would, or somebody who's been through that specific thing. In fact, as I was thinking about it, it obviously could be triggering for someone who's been through sexual assault. But I also, as I watched it, thought, because this is really about healing, processing the trauma and healing from it. And that's why it takes several years. And I liked how, because it time jumps, it starts on that weekend, and then you jump back, and you get to see played out a couple of things that they had talked about in that first act. And I actually thought that helped prepare you for what was going on so that you could kind of decide how to process it. I actually thought the key scene in this movie, without really giving anything away for people who are going to see it, is she's teaching her class, and they're reading Lolita. And one of the boys in the class, she asked one of the boys in the class how he feels about it. This was where the part where I connected to it the most. He's like, well, this is a horrible thing, and I'm kind of angry. And she says, can you feel angry and still appreciate the form in which it's telling the story? And I felt like that's what the movie was for me. Like, that scene basically was a meta way of saying, can you feel angry about the thing that happened and also appreciate, because it also makes you feel uncomfortable, and the kid admits it's uncomfortable to read this story about Lolita and what's going on here. And as I'm watching this, I'm feeling uncomfortable, but also I'm not connecting in it in the same way. But that scene, I thought, is what really set it apart and really helped elevate it, because all of it was well done and emotional. And watching Eva Victor's character, and since she wrote this, there's obvious, and I think as I was reading some backstory, she has said she's a survivor of sexual assault. So obviously this was a very personal film, but I thought it was accessible and not exploitative, at least from my perspective.
Yeah, and it's not heavy, but it doesn't make light of it. It just balances that tone.
Yeah,
I think
and it
so
is
well.
funny when it's funny.
It is funny, and I think the scene when she's brought in for jury duty is also really effective.
Yes.
And because they ask her, "Have you been a victim of a crime?" And she's kind of like, "Oh, I'm not ready to share that with this whole group of strangers," and having to kind of own what happened to her in so many different ways. Because I think sometimes there's an idea of okay, I've experienced this, but you kind of keep on experiencing it, but just through different lenses.
And every time you have to retell the story too.
And that there's just so many really wonderful scenes. Like when she eats the sandwich. And it was that whole scene. You'll just know when you see it. It's really, really good. And I've seen it twice now. And I was worried, does it have the Sundance bubble? But for me, it really held up quite well.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's been several months, so yeah. For me, I gave it an A- because I really did. I really enjoyed it. It's rated R. What was yours? I mean, if it's one of your favorites, it's probably an A. I'm guessing.
I'd give it a full-on A. I really.